This is a project I'm doing for my dissertation, and what I wanted to do was create an interactive video game for bilingual fifth graders. And the idea would be to be a type of formative assessment as far as teaching them to style shift between two different language varieties. So for example, like an informal English versus an academic English, and then same thing with Spanish, switching between like a street, more of a street type of buddy language versus a more formal registered language. So that's what I'm going to be doing for my dissertation. And so what this project was going to be for at the end of the curriculum, I was going to have the kids play this video game similar to what we're doing in 202 with the Mentira. And so the first thing that I did was create the story, and then so my next step is going to be to insert it into the online program that would actually make it more interactive. So I can pass around to you guys the story that I wrote and the pictures that I drew. And the idea of that is that it's like a children's book that they read, and I have pictures there. And the idea is that once they get to a certain point in the story, there's a task that they're going to have to complete. So for example, this first task is tell the boys to leave him alone. So at this point in the story, the boys are teasing him because he missed his soccer goal. And then so the idea would be that there would be several different choices that they would have to make to respond appropriately to that situation. They would make a choice, and then the story would move on, and then the story would change according to what their choice was. So it's along the lines of a choose your own adventure type of story. And so I have several different types of interactions. There's a main character. He's in a classroom talking to teachers. He's outside on the playground talking to other kids, and he's at home talking to his family. So there's three different situations and three different language register types that he's going to have that the students are going to be dealing with. So it's a long story, and I can pass it around and let you guys take a look at it. So this is a program from iTunes. It's just like a publish your own book, like you publish your own book.
What's it called?
It's called, I think it's just called PyBook.
Okay.
PyBook Author.
Yeah.
PyBook Author.
And so that's what I did first. And then so my next step is going to be to put it into this next online program, which is called Eris. And then the idea with Eris is that this is where this is the interactive part. So if you guys are not familiar with this, this is what Julie Sykes and Chris Holden did for their video game for the Spanish 202 classes. And the idea is that it's an interactive video game that the students use to practice their Spanish in different conversations, and there's different families they choose, and then they have to choose a response to an online character, and then they advance in the game that way. And
Yeah, I'm sorry.
and then so basically, when it works, there's like a picture and a character, and then the character says something, and then you're given like a list of choices to respond. And so that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to move the story, what I have already, into this platform to make it be interactive. That's an interactive step. And the nice thing about this is that this can track each student and the progress they made and the choices that they made. So there's a way I can see how many times did they play a level, how many times did they try to do this task, and then we can and I can use that information to talk about the results with the students. So,
Can I ask you for some more detail?
yes.
You said that they have choices that are responses, and then that what happens changes according to the response they give. So are those responses based on having a wrong response in the wrong register with the wrong people, or are they based on just some other plot line narrative sort of thing?
I guess it's going to be kind of both. So the idea is that if, like, say that they're with the teacher and they have several different responses, and one would be like maybe a more inappropriate response, like "Yo, what up?" or something, versus "Hello, how are you?" and then maybe another one.
Mhm.
And so the idea is that if they chose Yo What Up with their teacher, then the online character would respond some way, I don't like how you're talking to me, or something like that.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
they would have to go back and try it again. And then so if they went back and said, hello, how are you? Then the story would be able to advance, and then would be able to interact with the character. So.
And they choose from a set of possible responses.
Yeah, and I wish I could show you, but right now I'm not sure why. It's probably my internet connection is not working. But yeah, so there's like several different options that pop up there, and they read them and then they can choose the one that they want.
And the program corrects it.
And then it keeps track of it, yeah.
Can the program play it too? Like, could I?
Like audio?
Yeah, right. Could I like read the response and also hear it, or is it just audio?
That's a good question. I'm pretty sure it's just reading.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure there's not an audio piece. There is some music that you can attach to it, but that would be a good question to look at if I would be able to add audio so they could hear it also and hear the pronunciation differences too. So that would be a good idea.
So that's an Eris, right?
Yes.
So I think you can do that.
Oh, okay.
And are you guys aware that we have a mobile maker lab here on certain Thursdays? I think they're like the rest of, except for Thanksgiving, on the rest of the Thursdays until the first week of December here that talks about Eris. You've been to one. So yeah, if you want to play around, it's really easy. It's so surprisingly easy. Anyway, just thought I would throw that.
Yeah, I've been trying to attend those things, and then hopefully I'll be able to make the game, and then pilot it by next semester with the kids. So yeah, I'm sorry that's not. But yeah, it's a really cool idea. So I want to take what I've already done and then put it into here and make it more interactive.
So, okay, so let me ask you another question then. Are you doing, I wonder if it would be interesting to compare the difference between what your book is as opposed to putting an Eris, although that's a different research project that you could collect data on for another project down the road. But it seems like if you've already got that narrative that you put together, right, the little book that you put on iBook, it might be fun to at least pilot and see what people do with that before you put it into something that's more visually interesting and interactive.
Like how do they interact with the book?
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing with, at least how I have it now, is that like the tasks that I have are not interactive in the sense that I would have to just, like, once it got to the task, they would have to like leave that platform and then just do it on a piece of paper or something, which wouldn't be very.
Oh, I mean, you can't mark on the book.
Not in this iBook.
Okay, got it.
So that's why I like this Eris, because then they can just stay in that program and then go through the story and then be responding.
Seems like there should be a book program that would, right, if there's supposed to be like interactive textbooks or whatever, but it seems like there should be a. And it could be like, like the choose your own adventure books where it's like flip to page 40 or
right.
whatever.
Yeah, and I'm sure there is too, but the problem is that how technology capable am I?
Yeah.
How much time do I have? I mean, the good thing about Eris is that it seems really easy to set up, and it seems easy to operate too for kids. So that's sort of the advantage I'm going for. Sure.
Yeah.
But you had to start with the book just to have a story and the options and the points where things change and interaction with different characters and things. Okay, I got it.
So this is going to be my next step. So that's it. That's all I really have. That's as far as I've got.
Very cool, Ms. Mary.
So here we go. Thank you for participating.
Ruben, you want to go?
Sure, I'll go next. My activity involves Yelp, and are you looking up there?
No, I'll sit.
Right? Oh, cool. Can you push the down arrow for me? Is that okay?
Perfect.
Really? Okay, good. All right, so my activity, what I'm showing, what's actually on the screen is the actual presentation itself. On my lesson plans that I do, I actually put them on a PowerPoint and present it in class, so I don't really check you out. So what you're going to see is the actual presentation that no, that's for you. So that's the PowerPoint presentation of the actual lesson plan as I presented it in class. What you have in front of you is the actual communicative task explicit instruction that the students receive, along with a copy of the menu that is mentioned in the PowerPoint presentation, and then the release. So let me put it all together for you. Starting with the objectives of Spanish 101 SSL. The reason why I chose Yelp is because of the fact that it's something that's already being used, and it is also free. Yelp is an application that's free for Android and iPhone platforms, and it can be used in Spanish. If you set the settings of your phone to Spanish, then when you actually download and open the application, it will be in Spanish. That was the first reason why I chose that. Second of all, Yelp is an application where people go in and review businesses themselves, kind of like Angie's List, but it's free. There's no cost. You download it, and what's been happening with Yelp is that the majority of people are using this for restaurants. So combining that with the fact that it's in Spanish, we implemented it in SSL to cover the sections about food and expressing specifically I'd like and I want. Now, the application itself is very easy to use and very user-friendly, and it's interactive, so when you download it, it has the function where it can locate you on a map, and it can tell you the restaurants that are around you, and it locates, what's that called when it locates you on a map?
GPS.
Thank you. So that's a really handy feature. Now, having said that, the project itself involves getting the students to, first and foremost, do a lesson plan about food, Mexican food specifically, SSL 101 Spanish, and then having them explore food for themselves out in Albuquerque. We are in such a rich and varied culture where we have so much outside of these doors. It provides a perfect opportunity for students to step outside these doors and use the skills that they've been taught in class. Now, so the presentation itself is very simple. So we begin with, and I'm sorry, everybody speaks Spanish, right?
No,
Okay.
sorry.
You don't? Okay. So it says, today we're going to learn about Mexican food, but first, what do you think? Raise your hand if you think this is Mexican food. So I see. So raise your hand if you think that bacon cheddar gordita crunch from Taco Bell is Mexican. And of course it's not, it's North American. Next, raise your hand if you think that roasted and stuffed poblano, chile, and walnut and pomegranate sauce is Mexican. Okay, of course it is. Raise your hand whether chimichangas, a fried burrito, is Mexican. Of course it's not American. Cochinita pibil, marinated roasted pork, that's Mexican. And nachos Mexican, and very many students are surprised to learn that no, they're not Mexican. Along with the ever popular and staple of every Cinco de Mayo celebration is the margarita. And is it Mexican? Of course not, it's North American. But what's happened is that in Mexico, a lot of restaurants and resorts that are in popular tourist spots have adopted it because they sell.
Yep. All
right, tacos al pastor. And this is what leads us into this section, because we're going to send the students, because we're actually going to send the students out. And
Cool.
so this is the type of food that they can take a look at, tacos al pastor. And this is an excellent tool to start talking about Cinco de Mayo, 16 de septiembre, to start talking about how the majority of Mexican food is really not spicy, but it's the salsas that are on the side, and talk about how the majority of Mexican food is not really fried. There's very few items that are fried in Mexican culinary kitchens. So today we're going to learn about this culinary custom called los puestos de tacos. And I don't know if any of you have ever seen up and down Central, but they've already migrated from Mexico, Juarez, Chihuahua, Parral, from all those areas. They've migrated here, los puestos de tacos. And so first thing, before we actually show the video, we are going to ask, ¿en qué ciudad están? These are the questions that you need to be ready for, that you're going to watch out for as you see the video. ¿En qué ciudad están? ¿Qué comida? What city are they in? What food does Anthony order? And what do you want to try? What food would you like to try this food? Now, Mary, can I push that link? I'm going to show you a real short video that's connected to YouTube. And this is on the other end. Hold on. Okay, on the other side, because I have it set up to right and left. Yeah.
click it now?
Yeah, on that video. So this is actually Anthony Bourdain, no reservations. And so he actually goes to Mexico to these puestos. It's a short 3.5-minute presentation, and we'll stop it after a couple of minutes.
Stick around to see what comes out of the woodwork when dark appetites meet the dark in the sky. I head out onto the road in search of my next meal. I'm told that 100 miles up the Rio Grande lies a place with outdoor food stalls that light up the night like the Vegas Strip. That sounds like my kind of town. Dusting off the highway grid, I stop at Piedras Negras, a city of over 100,000. Known as the Puerta de Mexico, or Mexico's door, it is one of the busiest crossing points along the border. This is a city on the move. Oh, this looks good. This is exactly the sort of thing I like. What is it? With the sizzle of juice, by the flicker of a bare light bulb, it takes only an instant to find what I love most about the country. Good street food. Something they do very, very well in Piedras Negras. My favorite kind of restaurant. No tablecloth, no waiters, no glassware, and no sommelier. I'm joined by Emilio, an acquaintance of one of my cooks.
This is things tourists have never experienced because they're afraid of it.
Spin the wheel, take a chance. This is the good stuff.
Boy, guys, in here. This is exactly how I like meat, like what I like meat.
Traditional Mexican tacos made fresh, quick, from simple, good ingredients.
We're happy now.
Some chopped up steak seasoned with cilantro and salsa verde, freshly made corn tortillas.
Oh, 1, 2, 3.
It's fresh, it's good, it's
60 cents a pop.
Yeah. Why would anyone go to McDonald's? This is fast food.
This is what fast food should be. And there are a lot of people from the neighborhood wanting that big meat, and it's doing pretty well. It's very popular here. It's like accessible for everyone. That's endorsement enough for me.
So we're going to stop there. There's another minute and a half.
Nice, sweet. So after
Yes, Mary. And then if you could go on to the keynote on the bottom, the more to the right, that one. Perfect. So then that's pretty much that's the endorsement from Anthony Bourdain. The students answer these questions. You know, well, what city's in? Piedras Negras. You know, what does you order? Tacos. And do you want to try this food? Yes or no? So then now we're gonna go and talk about this. What I actually did is I went to one of these taco stands and I recorded these videos of myself ordering and showing what the tacos were. And so I'm gonna spare you that. So then after they finish watching the video, I asked them if they would like to do this themselves, and then there's another video of when the food is delivered. And so once that's done, I asked them if they asked them when you're at the taqueria, then how would you ask for descriptions of the food? So I'm setting them up with the language that they need. And so we set them up into groups of 2, and that's where this little menu comes into play right here, where they take turns. First, they come up with questions about what the ingredients are, because the fact of the matter is, you don't really know what some of this stuff might be. So we arm them with the language that they need in order to ask questions. So they take turns role-playing with these menus right here. Okay, and asking for price and paying. And from there, we go into practicing a little bit. And so then we give them the assignments. So then individually, they download Yelp, or they can go online, create their account. And then we actually set them up to go out to one of these taquerias, order. They record themselves ordering the food and their reaction after they eat the food. And this was integrated into this. And so once it's done, then they upload their review in Spanish to Yelp. Okay? And so these are the reviews that they've had. If you've never seen that, if you're at the Yelp, there's 5, 6 reviews from them. And I also have all the videos from their responses. The students absolutely love this. I had a pilot group. One of the issues that I had was I didn't have a modelo. I didn't have something that the students could refer to and see that what other students have done. Now I do. Now they have that where students have actually posted.
They can read others' reviews. Yeah, cool.
And so all the students that did this absolutely loved it. They've gone back to these taquerias and they've learned a lot more about Mexican food. And it was an excellent activity. And they integrated into the department. So now we're going to have a lot of students going out and getting their information on Yelp.
How did you assess what they did then, or did you assess it?
Oh, absolutely.
I
Yes,
assumed
it
you
was.
did, of course.
This was done actually for Julie's technology class.
Uh-huh.
So if there would have been no assessment, she would have
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's hard to
worked
imagine
really
she
well.
would have accepted that. You're right.
Exactly. You know what? Actually, the assessment is I don't remember right now, but I would be more than happy to forward that to you.
Just wondered, that's
Okay.
all. Yeah, did you have a little rubric that sort of worked with what they are?
I don't remember. It was a combination of the post on Facebook,
Okay.
where we were. It's okay. I'm sorry. It was a combination of the post of what they put on Yelp, and of course, there had to be gender agreement, all of that, and then also the video that they presented, where they showed themselves ordering and where they showed their reactions to food, and then there was a little write-up about it, about the experience in English.
Right.
Yeah,
So
so-
their response to doing it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Did everyone have iPhones, or did they share? Did you find that some of your classes, like the majority did have iPhones?
Actually, they all had smartphones.
Wow.
And so because it's Android, and that's one of the things that I've been seeing in my classes is that everybody has, if not one of these, they have a Samsung Galaxy, whatever, or, you know, everybody has these now. This is like the standard now. And if they don't, then we can work around that.
And they can get them here too.
Sure.
To use them.
Yeah,
Did you have
for
any-
classes, yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking about doing this with, I was wondering, did you have any problems, like, when they taped it, did they tape just themselves, or did they tape the person ordering, and did you have any
Just
problems with that?
themselves. No, I had no
Okay.
problems with that whatsoever. And it's not really for research, so you don't need an IRB.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I did the video myself,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
where I didn't really, as the model, where I showed myself getting the food and going, okay, so this is what you got now.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So there was
yeah,
really no
okay,
problem with that.
great.
It would be cool to write that up as a research project, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah. There's a whole culture around this.
Yeah.
Especially since they're open so late. You get a lot of people that go eat after the parties, after the lights, after everything. So there's a whole culture around it.
Well, that means you could have follow through. In 102, they could go out and interview people at the Tuckadees.
Possibilities are endless. There's so
Yeah,
much
you
to
can carry
do.
it on. Yeah.
And so what students found most valuable is that they actually were placed in authentic situations, and they really had to communicate with meaning. And this works for any language, not just Spanish. And also, I completely blew them away with their preconceived notions of what Mexican food was. And also opened up the differences between Mexican food and New Mexican food.
Right.
So it was
That's
pretty cool. I enjoyed it.
Did they express it, at all, that it was like uncomfortable to film themselves?
They-
Did they explain it to the people working at Tuckadees?
Oh, they didn't film the person making the food.
Just themselves?
They just filmed themselves. So most of them they were like this, or their friends. They were filming each other.
Cool.
So, any more questions? Okay. Thank you.
Very good.
Very much.
Very nice.
Oh, and I'm sorry. One last thing. If any of you want any of this material, it's all there for you. Whatever you want, including the release that we made.
Yeah, I saw that on the back. Very
I
nice.
would like it.
Oh, sure. Sure. Actually, so you can have that.
Well, can I have an electronic version?
Number what?
An electronic version?
Oh, sure. Of course. Absolutely.
So this release was just for them to go visit the,
Right, because if anything happens,
Like if they get food poisoning or something, is that what you
anything happens, or because they are going out to do an assignment for the university, so we just made a generic release.
okay.
These little trailers, these little taco stands, and I'm not talking about the road coach trucks, I'm talking about the taco stands.
These are the little bitty ones.
Little
Yeah,
bitty
yeah,
ones.
yeah.
They're regulated by the city,
Mm-hmm.
and so they have to have the green tags on them. So it's not like they're just running amok. So
And
there
you
is
probably
some safety.
told the students to look for those tags to
Absolutely.
make sure that they were
Absolutely, they have to.
cool.
Michael?
Good evening, everyone. Okay. So I also included Christy Cobo in there because she worked on this project with me, so give her the most credit too, and we did collaboratively. So the title of my project is called Bilingual Behaviors, Attitudes, and Linguistic Landscape through Web Technologies, and it was using Foursquare and the Renal SHL course. And this kind of came about because I'll talk about as we go through the talk about one of the final projects is actually doing like a bilingual scavenger hunt. So the Foursquare was used as a way to enhance that project. So I'll kind of use that, but I want to start off with kind of building up to why Foursquare, what is Foursquare, a little bit about Web 2.0 technologies in the classroom, how it can also link with experiential learning in the community as a tool to link the two environments, and talk a little bit about bilingual attitudes and what are linguistic landscapes. And this hasn't been implemented yet. The goal is to do it in the spring with an IRB as a research project. So hopefully with Dr. Sites, so we will see. So we know for Foursquare, it's like same thing with Yelp, it's a GPS place-based type technology that you can have for Androids, iPads, iPod touches, and you can essentially check in places, restaurants, sporting events, nightlife, and you can upload a picture when you check in, and you can also leave a comments as well, and you can rate. And when you check into, you also can earn badges, so it has a whole award system set up built into it as well. So talk about this briefly about some Web 2.0 stuff. Students can be kind of digital natives. A lot of our students nowadays are very familiar with technology, or because of their socialization, they pick up on stuff very fast. We also know that Matheus Conforti has defined 4 key features of Web 2.0 technologies as participatory, authentic, immediate, and engages the community. It serves as a space that promotes social networking and collaborative learning between people in the class and with the community. And it also holds great potential to mediate experiential learning in the local community and creates new and innovative learning ecosystems. Particularly back in, using technology in the classroom isn't a new thing by any means. Back in 1999, Egbert kind of outlaid 8 key dimensions when talking about the benefits of technology, such as learners have the opportunity to interact and negotiate meaning, interact in the target language, all these target language is debatable. Learners are involved in authentic tasks, they're exposed to and encouraged to produce varied and creative language, have sufficient time for feedback, also work in an atmosphere with an ideal stress anxiety level, and learner autonomy is also supported using technology. Experiential learning is the idea that Web 2.0 technology can be linked with experiential learning. It's that matter of new concepts. Experiential learning leads us to question the assumptions and conventions underlying many of our practices of what we do. And myself and some previous research, we found that there was meaningful learning that occurred when we actually got our students into the community, using language and actually observing what was happening in their local community. And students really liked the fact that they were actually be able to see what they were learning used in the community and be able to share those experiences with each other. Wolf also talks about 4 key features of experiential learning, that the students become aware of the process and taking place of learning. They're involved in a reflective experience, which allows them to relate their current learning to, as well as their past, present, and future experiences that they will have. The experience and content are personally significant for the individual and student, and that there is an involvement of the whole self, body, thoughts, feelings, and actions, not just the mind. And also Ana Roca, who does a lot with SHL pedagogy, states that pedagogic sounds textbooks and new technology materials designed to meet the Hispanic bilingual students' linguistic needs. We know in SHL that a lot of the textbooks that have been developed do not serve our students' needs, or because it still uses a lot of, it's not realia, it's not authentic cultural materials, or you get the list of saying, no se dice, así se dice, stuff like that, which really perpetuates certain ideologies towards language use. Talking a little bit about bilingual attitudes and behaviors, it's been stated by numerous researchers that when you deny students a non-standard variety, that can in fact impede their acquisition of more formal varieties. Linguists a lot of times don't use we, we're using standard, use more formal variety or general Spanish. And it also encourages us to rethink about how we address SHL maintenance and also ideologies in the classrooms, especially in areas like New Mexico where it's not a stable bilingual community. Like Texas, for example, is a very stable bilingual. New Mexico is very fluctuating, and that's why Spanish in the Southwest is called a language in transition, because its future is uncertain in transition. One thing I found really interesting in the article I found is I found 2 authors, that Carrera and Armengol, kind of summarized about why students or why speakers of US Spanish might view their Spanish as being deficient. So they kind of summarized previous studies talking about when foreign language programs, for example, emphasize cultures of Spain and Latin America and don't take into account those that are within the US. there's a preference given to foreign varieties of Spanish in the classroom, Spain Spanish, for example, or other varieties. Also, the belief in academia of an intrinsic superiority of the standard variety, standard equals better, the best. The little interest demonstrated by the Spanish government through the Instituto Cervantes in teaching Spanish to heritage speakers, while on the other hand, they promote Spanish as a global language to non-native speakers. And also the devaluating effect of pejorative attitudes on bilingual speakers, and the continued hiring of monolingual foreign-born Spanish speakers in Spanish television in the U.S. So there's still a preference for monolingual speakers rather than bilinguals who are from the U.S. Kind of going to the other part of this project is to look at linguistic landscapes. Linguistic landscapes have traditionally been defined as looking at basically signs or billboards that you can see throughout a community, and you can exhibit loan words using the language, English with Spanish translations, or even code switching using the same advertisement. A more contemporary definition kind of describes it more as any sign or announcement located outside or inside a public institution or a private business in a given geographical location. For our study, what our plan is to extend that definition to include observations of bilingual behaviors such as oral communication, speaking, all within their sociolinguistic context. Some examples of signs or stuff from around Albuquerque I found is the upper left one is from the voting booth in the sub. Obviously, there's some typos in La Línea se comienza aquí. We have más y más, we have the H&R taxes, and we have from El Paisa se vende una traída, more of a loan word. So just some examples that I found. I have a lot of images. And Landry and Boris have also stated that the strategic use of language can contribute more directly to the positive social identity of ethnic groups. So when they see the language used in the linguistic landscape, it can also foment a sense of pride in the language and the culture. And it can also become a symbolic icon of language use. And that's the idea was this, that Foursquare can kind of act as like a sociolinguistic tool or a bridge to kind of really link not just what we're learning in the classroom, but also what you actually see in the community about how language is used, and to serve as a tool to actually document bilingual behaviors and what's happening in the community with respect to Spanish English use. Some of the research questions I have, they're going to get much more narrow focus as they go along. But essentially, what are students' attitudes towards Spanglish or code switching, and where do they stem from? How might the use of Foursquare in the classroom contribute to the learning, dismantling, and construction of ideologies towards Spanglish, code switching, bilingualism? And is bilingual behavior observed or more evident in certain parts of Albuquerque? That was something I'm interested in too. Which parts of Albuquerque maybe favor bilingualism or code switching? So this fits in with the SHL classroom because in each level of SHL we have a final project. So for 111 it's a bilingual scavenger hunt. For 112 it's producing a bilingual children's book. Usually in Spanish or code switching we actually go to elementary school and present the books. In 211 we do it's an interview with the Spanish speaking elder, and in 212 it's the after-school piece. So this project in particular is kind of fitting into complement what they're doing in Spanish 111. So first semester, first year, Spanish and heritage language. And the final project has essentially 4 parts. The first part is brainstorming or lluvia de ideas. So essentially students make a list of what are some things they think differed before, examples of Spanglish or code switching or loan words or stuff like troca or lonche or lonchis, other stuff like that. And then they also do the scavenger hunt, which is actually going into the community. And I think traditionally the project was set up where they were getting a list of words and then they had to go find those words in the community. And this is kind of where I want to change the focus of the project. The third part is you're actually doing an interview with someone, just one person in your community, about what do they think of when people mix languages. Is it good or is it bad, or why? And final report to the class. So they are in groups of 2 or 3 when you do this final project. And so for Foursquare, for example, this is the part I'm focused on and enhancing is step 2 is actually the scavenger hunt. And not making it so much a scavenger hunt, but just making it more go find bilingual behaviors in the community. I think when you actually give them a list of words, it can really limit to what they go out and find. And so the idea is that it's going to be a bridge to really collect what we're talking about in the classroom, talking about ideologies, attitudes, and identity, with also seeing what's happening in the community. And it's also a way to get students to really explore their own attitudes and ideologies towards language use, seeing how it's used. Because when you get a little like, oh, it's bad to do it, but then you go in public and you see it used all the time. The Kaya radio station does it, and you see how natural it is. It's a community tool among bilinguals. And so with that, I want to show kind of what Foursquare looks like. So Foursquare, for example, it's kind of I think it's very similar to Yelp in numerous dimensions. But you can also, if you want to search for, you can search by topic. So if you want to search for nightlife, or food, or arts, or shopping, you can choose a thing, and it will come up and show you where you can go. So
little marketplace, and you can find reviews and ratings as well. And when you check in, you can also, so if I wanted to check in right now, I could check in right here, I'll find me in Ortega Hall. So I could check in, you can upload a picture, and you can leave a comment as well. So one of the ideas is when they're actually in the community, when they observe the behavior, they can take a picture of, if it's people, I've told them they can't take pictures of the people, obviously, for release of model forms and stuff like that. But if it's a sign, by all means. And so they can upload the picture and then leave a little comment about what they think when they saw it, or what was interesting about that sign. And the idea is, the hardest part, I piloted some of this last semester, but more as far as the implementation process, more so than as the outcomes of what the students learned. Because I want to see, because it can be difficult with having students using Foursquare. So my idea right now would be to create a Foursquare account for the class. And so everyone checks in under that same account, but when they check in, they write by group, Grupo 1 or Grupo 2. Because the idea is if you want to see landscaping, you want everything to be checked in on the same map. So you can really see where
So they're all contributing to the same app is what you're saying? Sure.
So
yeah, because then they can go check out other people's stuff.
Yeah, and that way you can see where all the clusters are as well. And so, and the cool thing about Foursquare, you can make a list. So with the check-ins, you can make a list and you can organize. So if I had one, here's one I did this last year with the pilot. So we see, where'd it go? Where the map went. So for example, last year, this is where the students, the 3 groups I had piloted, is where they checked in. So we can see it's kind of relatively close to campus in some cases, and mostly on the east or west side. I expect to see a lot more in the South Valley for some reason. So this was kind of surprising initially, but I'd be more interested to see if once we get more students doing it, if we start seeing like heavy correlations. And that would even more in depth about why those areas, and see if that reflects bilingual behavior or if it's more reflective of student behavior as well. And so the idea is once they do this, part of the end project in class would be students talk about their experiences, to kind of do a little presentation summary of their Foursquare, as well as what did they see, how did they see the language being used, and what were the reactions to it. Did it sound, how did it sound to them? If they say it sounded bad, why? Kind of really explore their attitudes and ideologies towards how language is used. Projected outcomes is, I haven't done it yet, so it's kind of projected. Students will really engage in a local community in an innovative way by really connecting what we talk about in essential classroom, which is we talk a lot about identity and attitudes and whatnot. Hopefully it also encourage students to reassess their personal family attitudes towards Spanish code switching as a valid form of communication, which is reflective of your Spanish varieties. And then also that students will construct an initial snapshot of linguistic landscaping and Albuquerque. So of course, if this were to turn into a publication, students would also receive credit for it because they're also collaborators in research. And
well, you're turning them into social researchers.
Yeah.
They don't know that, but that's what they are.
And they would be explained that they're participating in something as well too. So just a recommendation to put out there: anytime you implement technology in the classroom, make sure you're an expert before you do it. Sometimes you hear a lot that, oh, I'm going to learn it with the students. It's usually not the right way to go. You want to be an expert on it so you can answer the questions as you go along. And just to kind of end with a quote by Salido, who says, "Until I can take pride in my language, I cannot take pride in myself." So the goal of this is really to get students to see that how like Spanglish or code switching is used in the community. It's a valid way of speaking. And the part of this too, this project is not just doing the Foursquare, but doing discussions that lead up to the final project. So reading about what does Spanglish mean, what is code switching, because there's a huge debate about which term to use. And so that's a huge debate that we should mention in our classroom to get our students thinking about how certain labels have different semantic weights when referring to ideologies and whatnot.
Michael, are you also dealing with register issues like Mary is? In other words, when people see signs, like the little hand-lettered sign that's in front of their house or something, as opposed to the sad state of affairs on the side put up there for voting. Yeah. I mean, sort of, what is the level of investment in terms of correctness or whatever in those different registers of what they're seeing?
I'm not really looking at, for this, I'm not looking at that. But however,
you just want the presence, the fact that it's so ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Okay.
But however, for another project I'm starting with, he's a grad student at UCLA, we're starting a co-author project on looking at science and languages and science. So that we'll probably look at registers and whatnot.
I was just thinking of something similar. They've done some, I read a couple articles just reporting on the incredible use of English in Brazil and in Brazilian signs to make businesses look better than what they are, you know, like so using English to advertise your car wash and to advertise your clothing store and all these different places where English was put in, even incorrectly, as something that had status. And so I just wondered in this case if that's a sense of trying to recognize the importance of having signs that reflect how people talk, or if there's any sort of, obviously you're just at this point trying to say, look, it's used everywhere. Yeah. It's okay.
And like the studies looking at linguistic landscapes haven't really been really done in the U.S. They've mostly been done in European countries. Sure. So this is a whole other area that hasn't really been explored in the U.S. in much detail. Is looking at why do certain areas of a town have more bilingual signs or have more Spanish signs, and why.
That happens in Japan as well. That was very good.
Yeah.
And in Egypt.
Yeah, well, English is the global language of commerce, certainly, and so it does have status.
It's good for teaching because then the students can read it like in the Arabic letters and as English words.
Right.
For Damian's class last semester, that was our paper, Language, Landscape, and Albuquerque. We looked at 2 Albertsons, one in the Northeast States and one in the Southwest, and it was very interesting to see. I wish we could expand on it, but it's a great area.
The thing too was when students go out and find examples. One of my students this semester, for example, went to Flying Star and Satellite, and their biggest coffee is called the Mucho Grande, and which is, you know, we hear, we're like, wait, what? And so one of my students was like, she's more than a proficient speaker, but she was offended by it. And she showed it to me. She's like, is this? We're in a place that Spanish is used. They should at least have something that's correct. And so also, like, most people see that, and then you go up to San Mateo and you see laundromats called washerias.
Right.
So they think it's the coolest thing ever. So it's also a really good way to get students talking about different ways how you can be playful with Spanish too, when communicating.
Well, in that sense of what offends and what doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So why is washeria cool, but why is muy grande or mucho grande not cool? And,
yeah, like maybe Starbucks, like corporation versus a tiny little
business,
who's making the sign.
Right.
And that kind of fits in like you can look at the difference in power dynamics in the linguistic landscape.
Exactly.
Of course. Yeah. Neat. Good stuff.
Well, great. Thank you all so much. And Michael, do you want to say a little bit about what's next week? Michael's going to be here again next week. You want to talk a little bit about what your topic is going to be?
Yeah, so next week I'm going to be talking about how to get students talking in online classes. One of the main preoccupations, worries, or concerns that we see within departments is that when students take online classes, there's no conversation, there's no talking. And so I'm going to talk about Voxapop, which is a way to do, it's kind of do an audio discussion board, so it's more audio based than it is writing, so they do get to practice and they get to interact with their classmates and really have meaningful interactions. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some research I've done with online classes is looking at, so one worry too is that when people take online classes that they don't do as well as on-campus students versus off-campus, but I've done some research on that too that actually shows that they're very similar. So the presentation is not going to be talking about Voxapop, but also some research that I've done about comparing and contrasting on-campus versus online first and second year Spanish students as well, and how you can easily incorporate conversational activities with web technology to get students talking in the online environment. And I'm going to talk about my 371 class Spanish in the Southwest, that's where I use it as an example, and kind of relate like what my rubric is, how I evaluate it, some of the prompts I give. I can't show examples because I don't have IRB for it, and because students' names, voices are there.
But you can tell.
Yeah. And so that's my idea too, is that the talking itself will probably only be 20-30 minutes, because I really want to show people like how to use it. And one of the things I struggled with in setting it up was making it so it's easy for myself as an instructor to go in and evaluate it. So I think I came up with a real cool way where it's really easy to see who's doing it and whatnot.
I've used LogMocha in my conversation. We have a Portuguese conversation class. It's conversation and pronunciation, and I've used LogMocha. And then I've sent the students out to find Brazilians on campus, because unlike Spanish, that's not as easy to find, and you really have to search. But I wonder if this Voxapop might be a better, I've heard about it, but I've never seen it in action, and I've wondered if that might be a better way.
I love it.
Because my students complain, oh, it's so hard to find people, or on Lagmoka, people are creepy, which is true, sometimes
Yeah,
they are. And, you know, and they've complained about it, but if this puts them all in contact with each other, then they can't necessarily complain about the creepy people, or the time of day, or, you know, some of the other complaints.
Voxapop's cool because you can edit it to be only closed, where it's invite by email only, or you can leave it open, so other people who happen to be in Voxapop can comment on your threads and stuff too.
Because I think the audio is the, right?
Yeah.
It's listening in. Are they typing, or they?
No,
they talk, right? They leave messages for each other.
Yeah, they have to
Cool.
respond to certain prompts, and then by Sunday of each week, they have to respond to at least 2 classmates by the Wednesday of the next week.
Yeah, no, that would be much better, I think.